Welcome back. We're halfway through the trading session today, and we will get you caught up in the markets with these modest gains for the major averages. But the House Financial Services Committee in the early stages of a recess that'll last about 45 minutes, and then they'll resume hearing the testimony of these 8 bank executives. And one of the members of the Financial Services Committee, Representative Jeb Hensarling of Texas, has been kind enough to step before our cameras here to kind of give us assessment. Congressman, welcome. It was always good to see you. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Are you getting what you feel the committee wants from these CEOs today so far?
Well, I think we're starting to get it. I think that finally they're waking up to the message that what they do with their money is their business. What they do with taxpayer money is our business.
Do you have a better sense, do you feel, of where the TARP money went in the last few months then?
Well, you know, dollars are fungible. I serve on the Congressional Oversight Panel. We've had very, very little transparency. We've had very little accountability. We're getting a better idea now. We've seen some credit spreads narrow. We've seen some bank lending increase. And initially, I just don't think these folks got it. They didn't understand. Congress didn't require it. And as Congress points the finger at these CEOs, and they rightfully deserve a lot of blame, Congress needs to point the finger at itself. They didn't require this information. They wrote a blank check to Treasury, and Treasury wrote a blank check to them. And so now we're paying for that, and I think we're slowly but surely working our way out.
Congressman, I was very interested in your question about executive compensation as it relates to the competitiveness of the industry and the possible defections to European firms. What was your response? I think it was Mr. Mack who answered your question. And do you think it changed the minds of any of the other Congress people on the committee?
Well, I think it's a legitimate issue. It is a question of balance. And, you know, we don't want to cut off our nose to spite our face. We do want to make sure that good talent helps us resuscitate some of these major banks. But again, what they do with their money is their business. What they do with taxpayer money is our business. I think that although I continue to study every comma and semicolon in the administration's proposal, I don't necessarily believe it is unreasonable. And so I'm looking for their input. And I think the input was at the senior levels that will be fine, but at the more junior levels there could be defections to our overseas competitors and could potentially hinder the resuscitation of some of our financial institutions. We'll have to work through that, but it's just outrageous, some of these compensation levels we've seen at taxpayer expense.
Congressman, you said that what they do with their own money is their business, and yet every CEO had to answer the question of whether they've bought new stock in their company or not. It seems like the real purpose of this hearing is just to humiliate these guys and punish them because we're all mad at them. Am I wrong on that?
Well, it's not my purpose. Certainly it is some people's purpose to hold them up to public ridicule. But as I look at the major causes of what we have now, it came from congressional policies and Fed policies, particularly policies that ultimately, no matter how noble the intent, was to put people into homes who couldn't afford to keep them. And so federal policy in Congress either browbeated, incented, or mandated that we loan to people who can't afford to pay it back. And now we're blaming the people who are responding to those mandates and incentives.
And yet, Representative
Congress needs to
Hensarling,
look at itself.
You sounded frustrated when you said, well, it was Congress's fault that you didn't put enough conditions on this money to know where it went. Are you going to require more conditions if you let the next round go? And what are they going to be before you vote on it?
Well, the second tranche is already out. I mean, this horse is already out of the barn. And I'm not sure there's anything that the Treasury can do with TARP funds that the Fed can't do under their 13.3 powers. So that's a different issue. But we must mandate transparency. We must mandate accountability. But what we don't want is a Congress who helped bring us to this crisis in the first place to have industrial policy pick winners and losers and essentially nationalize our banking system. The cure would be worse than the illness.
Congressman, we'll let you go. Thank you so much for joining us.